Well, we're out here today. We're gonna change some parts on the truck that it's been having problems with. I have them laid out nicely on the ground. We have new heater hoses, and I figured because I was going to be under the hood working, and the hood strut stabilizers, whatever they're called, don't work, so I picked up 2 new ones for both sides of that. Already popped the hood, but we'll walk around and look at it. You'll see here, hood doesn't stay up, so we need the stabilizers. If we look under there, we got a pretty good coolant puddle, and clearly we've lost all the coolant. And when it still had coolant, it was coming out of the heater hoses kind of right in that range. So we'll get that switched out. We'll first get the hood propped open, drain any coolant that might be left in it, and then see how hard it is to pop these hoses off and get the new ones back on. Okay, that one's kind of loose. One off, but now my pliers aren't holding it. Look at that, just popped one on. Holds the hood up. So we bought 2. Might as well change both of them at once. Get this one out. I do have, the truck was in the dealership not too long ago for like a steering rack, and they did quote me out on these hood struts, and I think they also quoted me out on the heater hoses, but at that time they weren't. It was barely a drip, but now it's dumping the coolant. So I liked it not to do it because I figured I could just do it myself. So I do have the quote somewhere, so I think I'll try to put that on the screen on how much the dealership wanted to charge for parts and labor to change out the hood struts and the heater hoses, and then I'll put up what I paid for the parts. I got the strut set, I think it was Advance or AutoZone, I always get the 2 confused, and then I got the heater hoses from RockAuto. So we're under the truck. We're going to drain the coolant out of it, whatever coolant might be left. I have a large bucket that I figured, I don't know how much coolant. I think it said it was 2 gallons, but that doesn't sound like enough. So I have a drop pan, kind of for where the dripping is in case there's coolant left in the hose. But I have the large bucket here to catch whatever might be coming out of the radiator. So I eventually did get the coolant to drain. I can't see it from here. Maybe if I stick the camera down there. Took off the lower radiator hose. Had a lot of coolant. Hit some of the other components of the truck, so it splashed everywhere, but I got the majority of it. And then up top, used the pry bar, and where the plastic clips kind of go on those bolts or whatever, I guess just to hold them close. Use the pry bar to pop those loose. I've gotten off 1 clamp. You can kind of see it down there. Got to get off the 2nd clamp, but the lower radiator hose was kind of in the way, so I was thinking I could remove that to get more access. This end should be done. We're replacing both of them so we don't have to undo the middle. And then somehow I'll get my hands back here to pop these 2 clamps off, and then the part should be free. Got one of the connections done on the backhand side. I'm going to try to set up the GoPro so we can actually get some action shots of it, but it's a tight squeeze. Using these guys to get the clamp, locking them into place, and doing my best to slide it off after that. So this next clamp is underneath, which is kind of a pain. There we go. If I just put them in sideways like that, I think I have both sides. There we go. Got the clamp out of the way. I should just have to be able to pull that one off. Just that I had paused it because I thought it would take me a while. I got it popped off. What I found worked was kind of squeezed the hose as I tilted back and pulled it out. So these two are loose. The three kind of bolt plastic clamps are loose, and then we just have the one left on the front of the engine. Actually, one clamp's off, one clamp's still on. Both hoses are still on. That piece is kind of rusty, so it'll be a pain, but we'll get it. Well, after making quite the coolant mess, we have the hoses off. This is the old hose, and this is where it was leaking from. I mean, the clamps themselves look rusted, so I can only imagine the connection tube might have been rusty, or the clamps loosened up because they rusted through, and that's where the leak was coming from. But we have the new ones clamped together in the correct orientation to go right back in. I just have to, I guess, activate these clips or however it's done. I think I just pry it off so that the pin's out, and then it'll clamp together. Same with these. Maybe these I'll slide on first and then see if I can do it. And then these will just be clamp them or crimp them, I guess, or pull them together, tighten it up, loosen it up, and then slide it over and get it back on. Then we have to put the lower radiator hose back on, fill it with coolant, bleed the system, and then we'll be done. Now I need to snake this through under the cannon, under the wiring loom. Caught on something. There we go. So the top line against the firewall is the front line towards me on the front of the engine. So we have the correct routing. I think at this point I will slide on top hose. Oop, I almost slipped off the front bumper. You can see this little screw. I think this one gets skipped over, but this wiring loom will snap into this. Just need a little bit more feed. So then those two sit up close. We'll just sit it on there for right now. Again, further back is more of these wires and the plastic. Well, I guess these can slide a little bit. So we'll snap it on those screws. Just slides on there, but got bad leverage. Just like that. This wiring into that clamp, but like I said, we have that one on already. There's one more against the firewall. Definitely fed through. You can feel the prongs all the way out. So we'll get our little tool and clip those suckers on. Now I have no idea if this is the right tool for it, but it's what I have. There we go. Basically just moving that prong. I think you guys just see my full view of my hand. See how now they're split? We got this little prong out of its holder. Yeah, I think that's, I don't think I need to spread it out anymore to tighten it. Don't even think I can. Just give it one squeeze each. yeah, I feel okay about that. Those same connectors put our two hoses together right there. Got to get it on the screw right here. Should be okay. So we're done in the back. We're done in the middle. Now we just have to get these guys back on, move the clamps, put the last hose back together. So it wouldn't be one of my repairs if I didn't have to go to the parts store and either grab another part that I've missed or a tool that I need. So when I removed the lower radiator hose from this guy, the hose clamp came off with it, and then because it's these funky designs, expand it too far for the pliers I had. So I went and grabbed this funky thing from the parts store, and then it wasn't big enough. At the end there is a little bit of adjustment, so I unscrewed that all the way, screwed it back onto the device, and then squeezing really hard was able to get this as opened as possible. So I'll see if that fits over the hose clamp now. Slide the hose clamp on, let go of it, should clamp on pretty well, and then I still have the side of the radiator, but then that'll be all the hoses back together. Well, I finished getting all the hoses back on, so I'm gonna go ahead and refill the coolant system and probably add one jug, let it sit for a minute, see if I have the lower radiator hoses on. It'll take 2 gallons from the internet search, so I'll add the 2 gallons, bleed the system. Might have to go get another jug. I have the 50-50 mix already, so probably would have been better just to get the concentrated and then add water, but it would be best just to start with water, but I have the coolant here, so we're gonna give it a go. There's one bottle. It already was a little, I had poured some out before, so it wasn't exactly a full bottle, but it was fairly close. So really I should go grab some more, but I think we'll hit one test start just to see. And give it another minute, look for some more drops. Get another jug of coolant, start it up, heat it up, bleed the system. Okay, we have you set to the top of the radiator. We're going to start it, watch the flow go down. I guess it should pull some through. Give it a minute, see what it does. Couple bubbles, so it's doing its job. Looking underneath, nothing new. With the old hoses, as soon as I parked and I got out of the truck last week, man, that thing was just straight dumping fluid out of the hose. So seems like everything's hanging in together. Run it for another couple minutes and see what we do. Well, we've had the truck idling for probably almost 10 minutes now. The gauge is nice where it belongs. Haven't seen any drops. There's still a few bubbles coming up, so I don't necessarily know how long this process takes, but the water level has never sunk into it, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. Started to clean up. Like I said, no drops. everything's looking good. So I ran the truck pretty long. Water level stayed pretty consistent. Bubbles kept coming out. No leaks out of any of the hoses, so we're gonna call that good for today. Maybe take it for a drive tomorrow and see how it does after it settles down. Everything's looking good though. So next on the list, gotta clean this guy. We'll put a new lens in here, and then quickly I'll roll under to show the problem with our muffler. So back of the muffler rusted out, fell. No conspiracy theorists, but I think the dealership did it. That fell, and then never had any muffler problems, and then it comes back from the dealership, that falls off, splits here. So this did pop. This was off a couple days ago. I just slid it back on. So but it looks like, just looks like whatever tubing was used for that muffler failed pretty quick, because up further still looks good. Then you get to this section and it just rusty holy. So I guess we'll need to replace that here soon. I'll probably take it somewhere to do that, because I would imagine that requires some level of welding. I don't think I can just buy a full pipe like that, but we'll see. So I started cleaning up. We had 1 full gallon jug, about a liter of that jug. Everything I've spilt on the floor, on the ground today. But yeah, overall, job well done.